prepare for tonight's topic because it'll probably be more of a debate than a. We're live. Welcome. Welcome to the No Faces Comic Chat. Today, now listen. Now I picked this name for our team tonight specifically because I hoped DS would like it. Every week, I try and find either a name that he's really going to like or he's really going to hate. So I was hoping he would like this one. So what do you think, DS? Did you like this one?
I like it. I really like this title. No alliteration. It's to the point. It's relevant and it's advisory. I like it.
Advisory. Perfect. I love our PSA titles. So what's our title tonight there, DS?
We are the UV blockers.
That's right. The UV blockers, man. We're SPF 100. We're killing it. Very glad to be.
I like that.
Yeah. And I've got my Hulk 180. These are those BCW showcases. There's things I like about them. There's things I don't like about them. But one thing I like about them is that they make one with a UV option. So this one's UV coated. So I like that. And the back is all black too. So there's no light, getting in there. It's all blacked out in the back. And then the front case is UV protected. So I like that. What I don't like is that it's the comic is very loose in there. And the front page actually doesn't have much support, the front cover. So I worry that it'll sag over time, So that's the only thing I don't like. That's why I ended up, if you remember my old setup back when I was making videos as a wee tot, I had my 180 and my 181 beside each other, both in these cases. But I took my 181 out of it because I was concerned about that sag in the front. I don't care for things that sag in the front. What about you, Roger?
What about me?
Yeah.
So you don't have those in bags and boards in there. They're just raw in those cases.
I had them in a bag and board. I had them in bags and boards, and somebody showed on Facebook their setup, and they had like 50 of these on a wall. And I was like, "Are you using?" Because it looked much better than mine. I was like, "Are you using bags and boards with that?" He's like, "No, I just put them in the way they are. They work fine." So I took my bags and boards out just this week, and I put it in there raw, and it does look a million times better because the bag and the board really look pretty junky in there. So when I ended up putting it in raw, it looks 100 times better, but now I'm concerned that the front cover will kind of sag a little bit down, scoot down, pull on the staples. If it's a modern book, you're not going to have any problems at all. But on an older book, I'd be a little
Well, you could probably just put some backing boards behind it and make it like thicker so that it comes right up against the glass. It's like a tighter fit.
I thought about that too. And I'll have to, but the problem, one of the issues is that I'll have to cut some backing boards to size because it's an irregular size. It's not as tall as a backing board. So you have to cut some. There'll be some white trim showing. So I don't know. I haven't decided on it yet, but for right now, it's good enough for the 180. So we'll see how it goes.
Can we say hi and introduce ourselves and all that? While you two are talking about UV blocking already, I mean, I'm from Florida. I know about UV, all right?
All right, Roger. You were from Florida. Now you're from Mississippi, and you know about barbecue.
I'm still from Florida. I just live in Mississippi.
You're not even from Florida.
I lived there for the majority of my life, 50 years. I think after 50 years, I can call myself a Floridian.
If you live there, well, we'll let you have it. Whatever. We're not going to pop your bubble. So let's all say hi to Roger. Hello, Roger.
Hi. Greetings, everyone.
What about you, DS? You want to give an official hello there?
I am officially back, not showing my face after a brief full first appearance last week. And I sorry I missed the show, but I listened to the replay. I really enjoyed the show last week. I was out of town, but I caught it on the replay, and it was good stuff, and I'm really glad to be back.
Good. I'm glad. Glad that you're back. It was nice to see you and to physically see you too. That's the first time I'd ever seen you. Because if any of you have ever been contacted by the FBI, they don't have a picture of them. It's just like a kind of a sketch. It's basically like a hand holding a cell phone and a hairy arm, and that's all you get. And they said, this is all we know of Mr. Comics.
I do my best to stay off the grid. So, sometimes I make a sacrifice for the betterment of the community. And that's what I did last week.
Oh, we appreciate it. It was good to see you on there. We all had a big time. In the chat, we have Mr. Gretzky 9966. We got JPL Flash. We got Bad Dad 320. We got Comic Geek McD. Those guys are staying up late, aren't they? We got Hallelujah Comic Bro. What is that?
Hold on.
Now
I
he's shown
shout
up
out
my videos before, but how do you say that?
Hialeah Comic Bro. Yeah, Hialeah. Okay, I want to shout out Hialeah Comic Bro because he's from South Florida and he went to the same comic shops that I did during the 80s.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So I bet you that we have encountered each other at some point. All right. And he's a new YouTuber. Please, everybody in the chat, please go and sub up Hialeah Comic Bro because this is a guy who went through the same cocaine cowboy area in Miami and survived. So trust me, that is no small feat. All right.
That's awesome.
And he actually has started doing videos and we've been talking, communicating. I tell you, we went to the same shots at the same era. I bet you anything that we know each other and we just don't know who we are at this point.
Yeah. That's cool. That's always nice to make that kind of connection. It would be cool to see him and like see a picture of when he was a kid and be like, I remember that kid, you know? Yeah.
You know, we went to A&M Comics, Sunshine Comics. We went to 7-Elevens in the same area. I mean, man, I so wish that I still lived down there because I'm sure that we would be like hunting friends. You know what I mean? Just go everywhere. We go down to the do they still have the Hialeah flea market over there? I don't know if they do. They used to have one in the dog track. Man, all kinds of places over there.
The dog track. You know, it's funny because people who are not from, you know, bigger cities or areas don't know about the dog track. But it's basically like the horse track, only with dogs.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. It smells a little bit, but if you've ever been to a horse track smell much worse. They're horribly. What smells at the dog track are the people watching the races. You know, at the horse track, it smells the horses. The dog track.
The Flagler dog track used to have like once a month on a Saturday a flea market. Everybody would just, you know, on the parking lot. And I found a lot of good comics back then. I mean, lots of good old comics for like 10, 15, 20 cents.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they're not in good shape, but, you know.
Back
then, we didn't care. We read them, and that's it.
I tell you something. Right now, I don't care. I like low grade. I like, you know, they say low grade's better than no grade. I don't know what no grade is, but if it's still a comic book, I'll take it. You know, I believe DS has talked me out of buying some no grades before.
Yeah, I have. You've looked at some that were almost worse than no grade. They were really super like not presentable, but yeah, low grade. I mean, you can get 2.0s, 2.5s that look great.
Oh, that is awesome. I tell you, I have something of an odd collection now. It keeps morphing, but originally I didn't even know what condition was. Right? When you first start collecting, like Roger said, it didn't matter. You just, oh, here is a copy of this book. I'm happy to have it. I'm keeping it. Yay. Right? I found it and it's mine. And then later everyone was like, well, mine's better. And this is why, and this is prettier. And this costs this much and that costs that much. And you start learning about all this condition. So there for a while, I started really being more and more picky with my books. And I'm kind of coming back full circle again. And I'm not that I'm indiscriminately buying books on the condition anymore, but I am kind of really looking at what I like versus what, you know, like what do I need in high condition and what don't I need in good condition? And really, if it's a key and it's in fair condition, I'm happy. If it's a non-key and it's just like a $1 book, then yeah, if it's a rag, I'm not going to buy it. So I'm kind of getting that way, you know?
Yeah, I feel there's sort of a natural evolution that goes on with comic collectors when you get hardcore into it, and most people follow this. There's exceptions to every rule, of course, but I see you going down the road that I also went down. And you know, when you first get in, it's like, especially with slabs these days, everybody's like, "What's the grade? What's the grade?" And I'm not talking like 9/8 modern comics, like just across the board, gold, silver, bronze type stuff. Everybody's whatever. Initially, like a 7.0 is better than a 6.5, get the 7, or I don't want anything less than an 8 type thing. But, you know, quality and presentability are totally different than grade. They sort of track the same for a while, but, you know, you get to a point where you can look at a 7 and a 6, and the 7 does not look as good as the 6, and you will opt for the 6 because it's a better quality book. And that's something that when you first get into the hobby, a lot of people opt for the 7 automatically because higher grade means better book. Well, it's not necessarily. There's a lot of things to it. Presentability and quality overall is not necessarily always the same as the grade. And Bub, I see you making some really good decisions lately. I've seen you growing just since I've been on YouTube talking to you. I noticed you're really focused on the centering and the wraps on Bronze Age. That's a good choice because you're really going after quality, and it's not really based on the grade per se. And low grade but presentable is a quality book. It's much better than a higher grade with big chunks missing on the cover. So sort of a natural evolution that a lot of us go through. And I went through it too. I used to just go on the grade only, just whatever the grade was. Higher grade means better. Well, that's not really the case. When you sort of get more experienced and more into the hobby, you want a quality presentable book. Grade is sort of secondary to that.
Yeah, and also what you're going to use the book for. To me, if it's a slab, I don't even look at the number. The number doesn't mean anything to me. When I see a book that's slabbed, all I'm looking for is the color of the label. I want to know if it's restored. I want to know if it's, witness signature. I want to know if it's authenticated. I want to know if it's, universal label. I want to know what's going on, right? I want to know if it's qualified. But other than the color of the label, then I'm looking at the cover. And that's all I care about is the front cover. How well does the front cover present? Because I'm never going to read the book. The thing could say has, has writing on the 5th page interior. That's not going to matter to me. I'm never going to see the 5th page interior. All I'm going to see is the cover. So going at it from that point of view, sometimes I'm able to get what I think is a cover that presents at like a 4 or a 5, but overall it's a 2.5 or a 3 on the grade, and I'm more than happy with that. So, the way the cover looks on the outside, if it's a slab, is really all I care about, and that it's complete. I don't like writing on the cover unless it's a date stamp or a price or numbers. I don't mind really any numbers at all. What I can't stand is like a name, like Anthony written across the top of the book.
Melvin.
Yes, Melvin. Now that jerk.
Oh.
Yeah,
I bought a collection once, and it had, what was his name? It was Melvin, like Rudolph or something like that.
I think I've had one of those, Roger.
Yeah, you know how the Marvel banner, right? How it has a little space right above the older ones have the little space there, and he would write his name right there, like in small cursive. Oh my God, I used to trim the comics so that would not show. They used to drive me insane.
Man, now you're gonna get DS all riled up because I know DS would rather have the name Melvin on a comic than have it trimmed.
Well, I would, and I've got this one here. All right, so I'm going to show you this. You want to talk about writing. This doesn't bother me at all. This is a very rare book, but it's got some writing here. It says Charles Helm or Charles Heim. This is a book that was handed out in the Catholic schools to children. So this is...
that's a Cathedral Guild comic, yeah. Yeah,
perhaps this was the teacher's name that this on top of the stack was going to or something, but an adult wrote this in pencil. But then on the bottom, there's some kids writing here. JA and some numbers, and then KBON or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of writing, and it's always better to have a pristine cover. But this sort of gives this character because of the type of book it is, and I don't mind at all on this one.
DS, does everybody know in the chat what you're holding there?
Well, probably not, but this is a book that was put out by the Catholic Church in, I don't know if it was Wisconsin or Michigan. One of those northern states in 1950. They put out a bunch of these sort of propaganda books, anti-communist, pro-Christian type, typical Red Scare 1950s conformist. It's a great piece of history, and they put out a few of these. This is the hardest one to find, I think.
Could you tell them how many known copies of that there are?
Well, I mean, Overstreet estimates there's 20 to 30 of these out there because the parents, when they saw this, I think, and the church, when this got put out into the classrooms, it was scooped back up really quick because it's pretty graphic, pretty violent. There's a violent car crash scene in here. I had this raw, and I read through it. But it's got the devil throughout, trying to incite children and young adults to do sinful things, to turn the country against Christianity and towards communism, essentially. So really, really funky piece of history here. So they scooped them up really quick. They reprinted it 8 years later, 1958, and it was really watered down. But this is one of the original ones that survived, and I bought this several years ago for a couple $100 raw.
Oh,
And, yeah. So I don't know what it's worth. I mean, it's not like a huge market for this, but it's just so hard to find. I've seen maybe one since I bought this. The 1958 one is available more often, but this is the 1950 original copy. So I love this book.
yeah,
Silver Age Dave says that's his name on the book, and you should mail it back to him.
Of course. You're too young to have gone to Catholic school at that time, Dave. I'm sorry to say.
Dave, I will put it in my will and bequeath it to you upon my demise.
Oh boy, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that's exactly right. That comic is uber rare because exactly what Dia said. When the parents saw that, and boom, they're like, "What?" So there was a mob scene at the school the next day, or that whenever they could meet with them, and they pulled it because it was such there was such hullabaloo about what the comic was telling the kids to do, even though it was just to show the dark side, and then the light came later.
Yeah, so and also the back
really
cover
rare comic, really rare.
Back cover is cool too because it's got this little Christian 1950s conformist type lecture. And the last part's the best. It says the tragic evil is not that our Christian culture is no longer capable of producing peace and reasonable prosperity, but that we are allowing secularism to divorce Christian truth from life. So that's some powerful stuff they're pushing there. 1950.
Well, awesome. that part wouldn't have a problem. They probably wouldn't have a problem with. It's the imaging and it's the shock value inside the comic. And there were others, like the Red Scare. What was that other issue? Russia something.
I mean, there was the Red Scare, but there's all that McCarthyism.
McCarthy, yeah. But there was another issue put out by Cathedral Guild.
Oh, okay, yeah. There was one called
If Russia something.
No, it's I've got these saved on here. I'll look it up real quick.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, all those issues are, they're sort of brothers of each other.
Well, he's looking at that. I tell you. Oh, here we go. Yep, show it.
All right, so I'm going to show you these. I've got these saved because I was going to post to Instagram if anybody had these. Is This Tomorrow is one of them, and Blood is the Harvest. Is This Tomorrow is the most available one, and there's actually 3 variants to that one. There's a price variant and a no price variant, and then there's the one with a circle where the price would be. The circle's there and the price isn't. All 3 of those are out there. I'll pick them up at some point. Blood is the Harvest is the toughest one to find, and that one's the most expensive because it's got a firing squad. It's got people up against the wall being shot. So more graphic on the cover, but these 2 and this one are the 3 essentially.
That's awesome.
I agree.
So was that written in pencil, the name and stuff? Was that in pencil or was that in pen? Like, did you try and I asked because you had it raw. So did you try and look at seeing if you could remove it? Or
it's in pencil. I don't personally mess with books. If I'm going to have something done, I'll send it to a professional.
You don't want to mess with that book.
This has a paper cover. It's old. I didn't put it in a cover. I mean, it is what it is. It's lived its life, and it's got honest wear. The writing, the wear around it. That's the book, and that's what happened to it when it was around and lived these years, and now I own it. So this is the condition it's in. It's perfectly acceptable with me. But it's pencil; it'll come off. You could crack this out and clean it off and get it pressed, and then I don't see the point of it for a book like this. If it was a Silver Age superhero key, totally different story for me. But something like this is part of the charm for this book to me.
That's cool. I can agree with that.
I would have done the same thing. Yeah, that's beautiful book.
I also like stamps. Like if you see any kind of stamp work, and this book here, my Werewolf by Night 32. I think this is it. Yeah, Werewolf by Night. I'm sorry, Werewolf by Night 32. I can say that number 1. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Well, I've got it up there, but that's not the point. Werewolf by Night 32. And one of the things that I love about this is because of the subject matter being kind of, not really demonic or anything, but it has that mystical and, occult type stuff going on with him and the book and all that stuff. And it has this here, the stamp on it says Temple News Agency, Masonic Temple Building of, it says Indiana. I think it's La Porte, Indiana. So that's pretty cool. Like when you get a stamp.
Do you know where that is, Seawood? LaPorte, Indiana?
Yeah, where is that?
Yeah, I don't think R. Wheatley's in here, but I know C. Woodard is from Indiana. Maybe he knows where that is.
Yeah, so Bub, that was probably part of like the library collection for that lodge or something, right?
Yeah, it was part of the Masonic Library Lodge. Yeah,
yeah.
So
that's
I
cool.
mean, that's
messianic.
Not where I'm from.
Oh,
I'm just saying, and I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about Kentucky.
Oh,
here it's the Masonic.
Okay. Oh, now you're a Kentucky guy.
Well, I've lived here for 50 years. Feels like
you haven't even lived 50 years.
I'll tell you something. When I stepped off the Greyhound, I aged tremendously. Everyone around me was going less than 1 mile an hour, and I just fit right in. I just moved as slow as everybody else did.
Yeah, right. I believe that, sure. And I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's a whole.
He thinks it's somewhere in the north of Indiana.
Yeah, there's a whole genre of sort of marks on the book that collectors either look for, don't look for. It's cool, it's not, whatever. And date stamps are obviously have, they were always sort of liked, but they've sort of gained a new. There's a new appreciation, a renewed appreciation for them. I feel like in today's hobby, date stamps and particularly the placement of them on the cover. It's a cool little uniqueness to a book that may have hundreds of thousands of copies out there or whatever. The other one is store stamps. For me, I think some people don't like them at all. To me, they're like date stamps. If it's a store stamp, that's not, there's some of them I've seen where the store stamped it like 10 times on the cover. That's overkill, or it's stamped right on the main image.
I agree.
But, I see one, I must have owned probably, 15 maybe that say Bonnets. It's a bookstore from Ohio, and they must have sold, I don't know if they're still in business or how old it is, but Bonnets Used Books is a stamp that is on so many Golden Age and Silver Age books. I don't mind when I see a Bonnets. It's almost like a pedigree to me. It came from that store. It's kind of cool. I like the Bonnets stamp.
I love date stamps. One of the reasons that I had picked up this Hulk 181 was because it had a date stamp, and when I saw that, I fell in love. But store stamps, they're so big. Like sometimes they're like that big.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You really have to not mind. The placement counts obviously, but
yeah,
sure. I've had several. I've got a couple at CGC right now with Bonnet stamps on them that I don't mind at all. They're not on the action. They're Golden Age books. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Library stamps, same thing. And a little bit of writing. I don't mind I don't mind writing if it looks like it was by an original owner or if it's a really old book with the old writing. But I don't particularly like when some kid did his math homework on the back cover, or somebody in 1987 signed with a Bic ballpoint pen on a Golden Age book or something.
I hope you don't get any of my elementary school books there, DS, because I used to do that.
Yeah, I see a lot of them. I mean, we've all seen them. There's, if it's on the back cover, sometimes it's, what are you gonna do?
Knights of Old. By the way, another great channel. DS, have you seen Knights of Old's vids? Because he does a lot of
definitely. Yeah, he's got some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, he does. He said his Captain America 36 has a Bonnets.
Yeah, I think when I watched his video where he showed that, I think I maybe commented on it that there's like, hey, I like the Bonnet stamp. I think it was a video I commented about it on. Every time I see somebody show a book with a Bonnet stamp, I'm like, hey, that's cool. I've got them too.
We've got to acknowledge this chat, guys. I mean, it's full of great people. Everyone who turns in.
We got heavy hitters here.
Yeah, why don't you call them off, Roger? You do it with so much more enthusiasm.
Let's start off with the Galactus of the chat here. Great Legend Show is in there.
There you go.
Knights of Old again, guys. Man, he shows some incredible Golden Age stuff. We got some loser named Bub.
Yeah, I can't shake that guy. He follows me in the bathroom every time I go.
Look, take out the mirrors. Take out the mirrors in the bathroom. No problem. C. Woodard 19. Again, one of the most knowledgeable and just fabulous guys in here. From Heroes to Icons, Jason, fabulous artist. If you haven't seen his art, you don't know what you're missing. Yeah. Silver Age Dave, what can I say? He says, no hunting, Ohio claimed. Dave, I think you're the king of Ohio when it comes to comics. Between you and Lawrence, there can't be so much as an Archie left. Highly Comic Bro, I already talked about him. Please sub him up. He is just starting his channel, and he's a South Florida guy, so all the way. Prowler 671 again, great channel. He's always here in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. Mike's here. Okay,
hold on. Legend says he called in sick to watch DS, Metarog, and Bubs, so we appreciate it.
Oh, Legend, buddy, so much love to you, man. I don't know what to say. Okay, Mike, it's -30 at Area 51. -30 where he lives. -30. How are you not like huddled up next to a fireplace? Your phone would melt.
It's Canadian. It's Canada, man. They just watch some hockey and do some ice fishing and hand over the Molsons. They get through it.
They got some hardy people up there. I don't know.
Yeah, they do. They're tough.
I don't know how they do it. Lord Tatman is in the house. Comics Addiction, the new father, is in the house.
Congrats.
Ed D is in the house. Boy, I tell you, we got some Discovery Bay. JB.
Discovery Bay.
This guy, JB, I don't think he actually sleeps. He just takes naps because he's on everybody's show. He's always got something going on YouTube. He's always answering or commenting. He's amazing. And Alex, the comic hoarder, what can you say about Alex? Talk about the guy who can hunt and find gold. There you go. What an amazing YouTuber.
I think we got Pop Your Culture.
Yeah, he's a new.
I think we've got everybody else with JPL and Comet McD. Don't know if they're still in there. I know it's late where they're at.
Oh, Mr. Gorell is here. He just started doing videos too. He just started doing video. He made a couple contest entries, and he's a little tough on himself. He's like, I'm not too good at this. I thought he was actually pretty darn good.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good too. I just watched a video of his today where he went up with a couple of boxes, like mystery boxes against each other, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, Mr. Gorell, keep going, man. You're trust me. Don't be so hard on yourself. Trust me, you're pretty darn good. I wish I was that good when I started, honestly.
I wish you were that good now. So listen, everybody.
That's a good point. Good point.
Let's
hey, Kelsing Inferno, another UK guy. All right, man. I tell you, awesome. Great chat today.
There.
Sub everybody up, all right? Let's show some love in the chat. Go ahead.
I agree. Everybody sub everybody. Let's talk real quick. We got a couple of topics. It's already been a half hour. We haven't got to any of our main topics, right?
The usual.
So, I know. So we'll breeze through these just for the sake of knocking them off my topic list. Where I've got these up here: cameos versus first appearances. And I already know DS he's gonna pull out his CGC handy dandy notebook that he's got taped to the inside of his underwear, and he's gonna he used to staple it, but that was caused too much chafing. So he's got.
I mean, I've got my idea of what they are, and then the market has their idea of what they're worth. So
that's true. So, and that's a very, very good point, because I think that there's a distinction between. I'm not necessarily trying to say which is more valuable or which is more sought after. For me, I wish that there was more of a clarification in terms. Alex, the comic hoarder, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but he had put up a video about asking Google different, what's the first appearance of? What's the first full appearance of? What's the cameo appearance? He was doing all this stuff, and the answers, most of them were actually what we all would agree with.
Yeah.
But some of them were way off or off the wall or just confusing, So I think that because the terms are used differently in comics, I think, than they are in other types of media, which I think is wrong. I think it should more keep to the truth of the word. That there's a lot of ambiguity between what's a cameo, what's a first appearance, and then, of course, the ever elusively defined first full appearance. So now this Hulk 181 says first full appearance of Wolverine. So, and of course, the long-going debate, and I tend to say that people who own a 180 but don't own a 181 will always fall into the camp.
Right, there you go.
And that's not a knock against them, because I own both, and I'm still in that camp. But if you only own 180, you're always going to be like, 180 is the first appearance. I don't want to hear nothing else, But when you get both, then you can truly decide, right? But here we have a classic example, and there's several others, right? So let's start with UDS. We'll get to me last because I'm going to be correct.
Well,
and then we get to the chat. But we'll start with you. who I would guess is the least correct in this subject. No, go ahead.
Well, I personally don't care if I'm right or wrong. I just, I know what I like and I know what the market likes, and sometimes they're the same thing and it's cost me more, and sometimes they're not, and I get a deal. But look, when you have all these Marvel movies that have been coming out the last several years, everybody knows not to get up from the theater when the credits start, because there's always that Easter egg, that little teaser at the end. Whether it's Warlock or I mean, they didn't show Warlock, but you could see that he was coming in the one. And then they showed the Captain Marvel symbol. If they show a character right at the end, like this is going to be a spoiler, but the movie's been out a while, the Venom movie, they show the character at the end of that is exactly the same to me as showing Wolverine at the end of 180. That certainly is not a full appearance or a first appearance of that character in the movie, or is it? But to me, that's a cameo. A cameo is just a brief appearance. It's an appearance, but it's not an appearance in the plot, in the story, continuing on. I mean, it's not. Clearly, the 180 to me is a cameo, and clearly 181 is a full first appearance of Wolverine. That's how I see it. But you've got, sometimes you just see a hand or a shadow. I don't even know that that's enough to qualify it as a cameo. Sometimes you got the guy's face on a TV screen. Yeah, that's debatable, for Darkseid. It just depends. Darkseid's values for those are switched the other way from what the values are for 180 and 181. It makes no sense to me. I mean, I would much rather pay for the actual thing than the.
It should be Forever People 1, right? Instead of Jimmy Olsen 134.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, but the market doesn't think so. I think some of that has to do maybe with the cover and the title.
It has to do with the cover being so crappy.
I mean, plus I think it's a Neil Adams cover, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I mean, a cameo is not just a picture. A cameo is the character shows up in the last panel, and he says some words like Wolverine does, and he's clearly there. Yeah, that's not really a first appearance. That's a cameo. But it's the first time he's been in comics, so super significant. I think it's as significant as 181. The price disparity doesn't make sense to me. I think 180 is as important as 181 to me. But I don't think it's a first full appearance, and it's the story. It's still a cameo to me, but it's as important because you see him and he speaks. That's a major event in comics. That should be worth way more than it is.
But I was going to mention this because you guys may be too young, but when I was younger, 180 was worth more than 181. That has switched. That has gone 180 degrees, because I remember in 1980, 1981, everybody wanted this one. Okay. And then around the mid 80s, it switched, and this one just started, going bananas. But so times and there's an evolution to that kind of theory, because at like I said, during somebody can look it up if they want to, but I'm pretty sure 1980, 1981, 180 was worth more than 181.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example that doesn't make sense to me. And I've done some extensive research on this a lot early on, probably 8 to 10 months ago or something like that, with Reggie Simmons about Spider-Man's black suit. There's a whole slew of previews, which are not cameos or appearances, in magazines about, hey, here's what Marvel's going to be introducing. Some of those are more valuable than, say, like ASM 299, which actually is the first time you see Venom. He's on the cover. I think Venom on the cover, it should be more valuable for the first time. Should be more valuable than a preview magazine of the black suit, but that's not the case sometimes. Web of Spider-Man 18 has a hand at the end, and last year or so, I don't know if it's still up there, people were paying really high prices for a non-key book. It's nothing special, because they're saying it's a cameo, a Venom cameo. I mean, it's just a hand that may or may not even be. I think it's Eddie Brock's hand, but it may or may not be Venom or something. I mean, the market changes, and I think if you go with something that is sort of like a substantial image, because this is a visual art, if you have a substantial image of a character for the first time, that is significant. That's the first time they're introduced into the culture. If they speak, even more important. If they're on a TV screen, maybe less important. And it's different. Comics have different values for where those appearances are. But if you're a collector that wants first appearances, for me, I always went after, what are called the cameos, because those are the first appearances. I collected all the black costume previews in the magazines because that was the first time that the black suit Spider-Man was introduced into the culture. That's very significant to me.
I agree. I think that there's a couple of distinctions there. One is that for me, when you're doing a cameo, if you go just by the root of it, what is a cameo? What's a cameo in a movie? What's a cameo in any kind of story, visual story especially? Then to me, a cameo, you instantly recognize that person, and you instantly recognize that they're new to this universe or to this world or to this story, and they don't usually affect the story very much either. So, like, I know it's probably a bad analogy, but like, say like Donald Trump cameo in Home Alone 2, right? And the only reason why I mentioned that as opposed to like, Carnage's cameo at the end of Venom is that because that's a post-credit scene, I see that almost as an advertisement, somewhat akin to, say, Iron Fist 13. So at the bottom of Iron Fist 13, there's a little banner that has a silhouette of Sabretooth. And it says there's a new villain coming, and they show Sabretooth, right? He's not really in the book. He's not in the story. It's more like an after credit scene. So
is it actually him, or is it like a blacked out silhouette?
No, it's him.
Yeah, no, it's him. It's just a silhouette. But that's more like a teaser, really.
But that's what I'm saying. So like the Carnage at the end of the Venom movie, that's more like a teaser because it's after the credits, after the story's over, and they're saying, hey, here's what should be in the next book. And as we know, a lot of those times those movies or books don't show up, especially the movies. But in this case, I think like, Trump and Home Alone 2, it's a completely removable part of the movie. He shows up, he says hi to Macaulay Culkin or whatever, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's over there. He points directions or something. And we're all supposed to go, hey, look, that was Donald Trump. Oh, my God. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're supposed to do because we already know who he is, and we're surprised that he showed up in a story that otherwise he really didn't need to be in, or that we didn't expect him to be in at least. So when you have a first appearance of a character like, Wolverine, he was in the story in 180. He factored into the story. He wasn't an afterthought. He wasn't an advertisement of any kind. He was in the story, and he was going to continue to be a central part of the story in the next issue. So it wasn't like he's sitting in a chair in the background somewhere, and then all of a sudden, hey, wasn't that Wolverine? He didn't exist before this. So I think that there should be no such thing, and this is my controversial hard rule, right? There should be no such thing as a first cameo. You have to have a first appearance in order to have a cameo later. You have to already be a known character in some way that other people will be surprised showed up in order to be a cameo. You have to first have a first appearance.
Well, and it gets into a real semantic argument, like Prowler's saying in the chat. He asked, how do you define first true appearance versus cameo versus full appearance versus first cover appearance? Yeah, I mean, people can call them what they want, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, people value them different, and the values change over time, as Roger was talking about with the Wolverine appearances. And another thing that confuses it is you have some of these characters that take on new identities over time, but it's the same person, and now they are a different name, a different superhero.
Yeah.
Carol
Danvers as Captain Marvel. Well, we've had so many Captain Marvels before that; it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a Wolverine fan, you're gonna want 180, 181, and 182. You're gonna want all those. Which one is which? Whatever.
And 179, according to Bub.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a banner like next issue, we introduce a new villain, and it's got a picture of the villain. That's sort of the same from the publishing standpoint when they were writing that book as what they did with Wolverine in 180. They're introducing the character. They just didn't do it by a banner ad, but they did it by the last panel. To me, those are the same, and they're both equally significant.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think if it's a banner ad, it's less significant. It's more of an advertisement. That's like saying that the ads that are in the Thor and the Daredevil book and the Iron Fist
Marvel
book,
Premiere.
Yeah, Marvel Premiere presents Iron Fist, that those ads for 181 are his true first appearance now, or an additional cameo. I don't think they are.
No,
I think you have to have a true first appearance in story. You have to interact with characters, preferably with speech as well. Or if you don't have that, you need to be on the cover.
Well, then you've got characters like the Beyonder, who was present through Secret Wars Volume 1, but you never saw him. He takes on human form for the first time in issue 1 of the second volume, I think. Is that the first appearance of Beyonder? Not really. He was in the storyline before, but you never saw him. He takes on a human form. So you can get, mired down in all these semantics.
That can be. I think that
it's all significant, though.
Yeah, it is. And there can be some that are more complicated than others. That's for sure. But certainly
Warlock, the one I have over here, that's complicated.
Oh, Warlock is complicated. I think Reggie did a whole video about the different appearances of Warlock.
Huh.
I mean, he's got different names, different appearances, and cameos across different titles.
You could seriously go insane trying to figure out Warlock's first appearance. Is it a beehive?
There was him. There was a Warlock.
Is it him?
A Warlock.
Is it when he's in uniform?
Warlock.
I mean, is it when he's called Warlock? I mean, it will drive you absolutely berserk trying to figure that one out. So that's why I'm glad I have all his appearances, because I don't know what it is.
For me, the collecting of those type of things, I mean, unless you're just going to buy everything, is the way to cover your bases from an investment standpoint. But really, think about it's a visual medium. Think about the image that we recognize as that character. When is the first time that image sort of has some play in a book, as opposed to being an ad or something? When the first recognizable or identifiable or iconic image of that character shows up in a story, that's like the first appearance. So for Warlock, I think it's when he's Warlock. I don't think it's the Beehive. I don't think it's him. I don't think it's TV screen of Darkseid or banner ads. Those are all very significant to me, though. I'm not discounting them. But the valuable appearances are when you have the character that you know as you know them in a story. And that to me that's the valuable sort of first real big appearance of a character to me. And it's different for all these characters. It's so convoluted. I mean, you're talking 80 years of comic books.
Yes,
so many characters.
You're talking about like Eddie Brock and Venom. So when you see the first appearance of Eddie Brock, you could easily say, well, that's the first appearance of Venom. But it really isn't. It's the first appearance of Eddie Brock.
Well, and people are buying like the baby Cables, the first Cletus Cassidy who becomes Carnage.
Test tube X-23.
I don't. Yeah, the X-20, the test tube. I mean,
that's a great one.
That doesn't have lasting investment value. It has pops here and there when something in popular culture strikes the fancy of collectors to go out and grab that issue. There's a slight pop, but that doesn't have long-term investment value as for what it is. I mean, it's cool to own. I mean, it's kind of a quirky little unique sort of discussion of something to come in comics. But, the first Weapon X is not a super collectible, and Marvel Comics Presents 72 through 84, they do the Weapon X storyline. And that's the first time I think you really get the backstory of Wolverine as Weapon X. Nobody pays that much for it. I mean, those books in 9.8 are going for, $75 to $85.
Yeah.
They're super significant, though, if you're a Wolverine fan.
It still didn't matter,
Huh?
And they had a movie with its own name in the title, and it still didn't make a difference.
Right. So, take what's identifiable, what you know and love, and find where that first appears in action, sort of. And that's, to me, the staying. That's the one that has staying power as an investment and the real value of that character.
However, there's a new player in town, relatively new, and to me, that's the grading companies. So all of a sudden, I know well because there's a lot of people who take whatever the grading. DS is basing most of his argument along with market value and market movement, and I can agree with that. But the problem is we have companies now that are directly affecting the market by taking a side either way. So if you have CGC right that Hulk 180 is the first appearance, the first full appearance, or whatever you want to call it. Let's say they just said first appearance. They left out full or cameo, and they're, CGC likes to take all or nothing bets when it comes to like their witnessing signatures and things like that. So maybe they say for the integrity of CGC from now on, we are only ever going to acknowledge an actual first appearance. We don't acknowledge cameos. We don't acknowledge advertisements and all that crap. We're only going to say first appearance of character, not first full appearance or anything else. So if they put a banner over 180 that says first appearance of Wolverine, I guarantee you everybody with a 181 is going to start sending it to CBCS in order to get first full appearance of Wolverine on 181.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I mean, it's they're like I said, it's not necessarily always beginners, but there's a lot of people who are less experienced or are just getting into the hobby. They jump on what the label says. I actually had a book that I was selling, and it was the first artwork by Todd McFarlane, and it was Coyote 11. I've had several copies of that. You know, they used to, or no, it was Infinity Inc. 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they used to not say on the slab first Todd McFarlane cover. So I was selling one, and I'm like, it's the first published Todd McFarlane cover, and some potential buyers like, doesn't say it on the label. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So what's your point? Well, if it doesn't say it on the label, then you can't sell it as that. You know, that's sort of what you're talking about. But you know what? I contacted CGC because these were simply books that I wanted to make as much money as possible as selling them. Contacted CGC, sent them some research. They said, yeah, well, you're right. We will put it on the label. Put it on the label. Put them up for sale. Nobody questioned it then because it was on the label. Same book. So, you know, I mean, the book is the book. The labels change over time. There's trends. There's spikes. There's movies. There's hype. There's speculation. I don't worry about all that. I mean, I get the book I want. You know, sometimes there's a book that CGC has mislabeled, but if it's the book I want, I don't really care. I'll buy it, and then, you know, maybe I'll get it in a new case or not. But it's not like, oh, that's, you know, that's not an Amazing Fantasy 15. It says Amazing Fantasy 14 on it, so I'll give you $500. You know what I mean? Like, it's that's the book. It's in the wrong
label.
Buy
the book, not the label, is what you used to always say on the CGC forums, because they used to make mistakes all the time at the beginning, especially with price variance. I used to send them weekly messages saying, yeah, or special editions. Oh, that's so much fun. That's a JCPenney. That, you know, and sometimes they would correct it, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes CGC does not say price variant or newsstand. Newsstand especially, CGC doesn't distinguish on all these books, newsstand or not. CBCS is pretty good at it. I think they recognize people want that. But you can see if it's a newsstand or not. You don't need to have it on the label. It's a clear case. It's on the bottom left of the book. I mean, it's a newsstand or it's not. What do you care what it says on the label? You want the book or not? But another thing that annoys me about the labels is classic cover. It's a big golden age.
Oh, I hate those.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Both of these books I'm showing say classic cover. Well, classic to who? I mean, of course, they're well-known pre-code horror covers, but I mean, there's other ones that are just as well-known and more expensive that don't say classic cover on it. Who's at CGC's determining this is a classic cover and something else isn't? So, you know, the labels are whatever. I trust the grade. The number is the important thing. Whatever's on the blue part on the rest of the label, I don't really care what it says as long as I have the right book and I trust the grade and I want a blue label.
I appreciate that. Now, I'm showing this book because this is the book that he was talking about. So this is one of the first books that I bought on speculation. And the reason that I bought it was because the day after I saw DS's video about this book, and he had sent it into CGC and all this stuff. And actually, I think you were going to sell the copy, right?
Yeah, I did. I bought 2 copies raw, and they looked like they were in the same bag since the 80s. It was completely yellowed, beat up bag, but the books were in pristine condition. So yeah, I had 2 of them.
So I bought this book for $1 the next day in a dollar bin. I found it. And I was like, I ran home and I told my wife, well, I didn't run home. I mean, I'm not a 14-year-old. A busted bicycle, but you know, I rushed home and I told my wife, I was like, I got a key book. I got a key book, honey. Look, DS Comics says. She's like, what is all this? I'll tell you later. But basically, it's the first cover art of Todd McFarlane, and this could be worth something. And he got CGC to change it. So if he got CGC to change it, if I hurry up and send this in, I could have like the second or third book graded by CGC with the new corrected label, acknowledging the cover art, right? So I was super excited. But just in case, before I went and bought a CGC membership, I watched DS's sale and I tagged it. I put him as a safe seller. And I think this book, like, it was for sale for like a month. And I had like no watchers. Nobody wanted this book. I was like,
I should have just held on to it because I thought it would bring a better price than it did, because I think it's significant. I mean, Todd McFarlane is arguably the biggest name in the modern age of comics as an artist. I mean, there's a lot now coming to the forefront, but he's been there since the 80s, and he's a huge name. He's like a rock star status throughout the 80s and especially in the early 90s. And that's his first published cover ever. And then nobody wanted it for like, I had a high-ish price on it. And then I ended up putting it on an auction, and it sold for like, I don't know, $70 or something. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I should just held it because I think it's really more valuable than that, but whatever.
And with the story that you had into it, it was more valuable. That's the first one ever with the correct label, and that you made it happen. So
well, yeah, I mean, I made that happen. It's cool. And whenever I see one of those in the future that has that label, I know I'm the reason that's on there. Although somebody eventually probably would have done it anyway, or if not CGC just by itself. But I can always pick up another one. But I had that and Coyote 11, both 9.8s, white pages, new cases, and I sold them as a set, and I didn't get what I thought they're worth. But sometimes that happens in auctions.
I'll tell you, DS, this is not a 9.8, I'm sure. But I'll send it into CGC free of charge. I'll take care of it. I'll get it back here and everything. And then I'll send it to you for your original asking price of the one that you had on eBay.
Well, you know what's funny?
My promise to you.
You know what's funny? I sold those books like a year and a half ago or something. Somebody that I talked to on Instagram just posted a picture of Coyote 11 in a 9.8. And I was like, oh, cool. I used to have that. I had that along with the Infinity Inc. 14 and 9.8. He's like, check out my next post. He posted that, and the case had that note on it. And I was like, wait a minute. I looked at the case, and then I looked up. I was like, what's the cert number on that? And I went and looked up, and he bought the ones that I submitted. They have made their rounds back to this guy at some point, and he bought them from somebody else. And now they're showing up on my Instagram feed, and they're the ones I sent in to CGC like a year and a half ago.
Hey, speaking of Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first, Roger, do you have, other than what you've already added, do you have anything else that you want to talk about, CAMEO'S? Obviously, we haven't solved anything.
No, we haven't solved anything.
Oh, anyway, real quick, before we get into that, this is apparently not a classic cover.
That's ridiculous. I literally have seen T-shirts of that cover in a con before. I sent you a picture of it.
This is the iconic classic pre-code horror cover. That's it. For a classic cover, this is it. It doesn't even, they don't have it on the label for this one.
That's absurd.
Back to the Instagram, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that, the cameo thing that like can be really taken to ridiculous portions. Like this here, Son of Satan, right? And you see like in a shadow thing, and then over here you see his pentagram, I think. But I think his full appearance is even after this. But so it can go to ridiculous. No, I mean, Son of Satan's not a hot character or anything like that. But I'm just saying, I think comic companies will like they did with the Venom hand, and the writer did, confirm that was supposed to be Venom, and then it got off track, right? But comic companies can go to can do this to us, right, and drive us insane, and they know that it causes us to have discussions that ultimately will benefit them.
Yeah, and sometimes it's years before a character is even thought about. They go back and they have to incorporate a brand new character into the history of the storyline. They go back and pick something like, who can we make this character be? And they're like, oh, well, let's use this character back here, or this person that was born, or this shadow we showed, and let's now reveal years later that that's who that was.
Like Misty Knight.
Yeah, and it like retroactively gives value to something which at the time was meant to be nothing.
Knight and Marvel Team Up 1. There's a lady who shows up and says, hi there to Spider-Man at the end. I think she was being mugged. And then I think 10 or 15 years down the road, hey, I remember you from the Christmas, really.
Yeah, well, the Web of Spider-Man 18 with the hand, that's 1985, I think. And the first appearance of Venom is 1988. So they're separated by 3 years, and people were calling that a Venom cameo. Venom wasn't even conceived of until 88. So whatever, but that's
I guess we can just agree that you can take this to ridiculous extremes if you want to, as far as first appearances. But to me, it's a material because I'm a run and a character collector. So to me, it's a material, but the value that it's placed on first appearances, really is a critical kind of element because people want a lot of people want those keys and only keys.
Yep. Well, I've got a name. I've got a name for it when people attach price to things that are not actual first appearances or whatever, and the price jumps and people attach these values to them. It's called the Foom effect. That's what I'm going to call it.
Shut
the
up.
Foom effect.
The Foom. Very good.
That is the Foom effect. When people go back and there's Venom's hand, that's the first cameo. That's the Foom effect. That's what I'm going to call it.
Excellent.
This, I don't care what you say. That is
first appearance
awesome
Wolverine right there.
It's an awesome Steranko cover.
It is an awesome Steranko cover.
It's badass. I'm going to get Steranko to sign it right here, possibly in the crotch. I can't decide.
Those are the best abs Hulk ever had.
Yes, he's fit as a fiddle. And on the back, which you can't see because I've got it in 14 boards, but in the back is a great Plug Frankenstein. It looks really cool. Have you guys ever seen the back of this?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I'm familiar. I don't know if you showed it, but I think we're both familiar.
All right, well, then that's good enough. So there you go. I'm telling you, that's a great book. The Foom effect must mean it's got a great front cover and back cover, so I'll accept that. Yes, thank you.
No, that is historically significant, though, and it is valuable. So that's not what I'm saying, but it's not even the same Wolverine. It's like picking out an appearance of Thor from one of those DC late 50s sci-fi monster things where they had a character named Thor. That's also not Thor.
Yeah.
But it's definitely significant. And really the value of that book for me is the Steranko cover. That and that Hulk annual are the two best Hulk covers perhaps ever.
The one where he's holding up the logo.
Yes. Yeah. They're both Steranko. Those are perhaps the two best Hulk covers ever. I mean, arguably, they're definitely,
All right, so Instagram, right?
Well, first, let me at least say that from all that, I think the best bit of advice is buy the book, not the label. I think that's the winner of all of it.
That's the best thing to do. Buy what you like, and you'll be fine. But you start trying to figure out what CGC wants or what the community wants. Yeah, forget it. You make the reason to what you like.
And if the reason you want to buy 180 is because you're convinced that it's the first full appearance or any appearance of Wolverine, and that's why you bought it, well, then every time you show that book, say, look, everybody, it's the first appearance of Wolverine, and now you're it. You've done it. So good for you.
You got it.
Yep. All right, let's talk about Instagram.
All right. So you want me to start?
Well, I think, Roger, I think you should go on this topic.
Yeah, tell the big news.
Okay.
Yeah.
A few members have been urging me, badgering, to come into the 21st century and join Instagram. Okay, so I'm, antique that I am, right? I was like, I don't know, and I barely can get by on YouTube, So, but I did it. I signed up, and then all these people started saying, welcome, and but the lingo there is beyond me. It is a lexicon that I do not understand, right? So they're like, oh, I get things, people tagged you, oh, repost. Oh, I have no idea what this means. So thank God DS and Bub kind of helped me a little bit, but I need a little bit more of an education when it comes to Instagram.
Yeah, well, I told him what I knew. And then he started asking stuff that I was not completely comfortable with. And I was like, hey, you're maybe no tech. I'm just low tech. Bub's the one you need to ask. Like, I've just recently learned how to put an @ in front of a name and to post people so they'll get alerted to go check it out. And that's what I try to do with you, Roger. But that's the extent of it. I mean, half of my posts on Instagram don't have any hashtags on them at all because I didn't even know what they were.
Well, when I was, I think, the one or one of the ones at least who badgered DS into getting on Instagram. And the main reason I did that was not because I wanted to see whatever he posted, although I do enjoy that, was because there's so many great books being traded and sold on Instagram. And I think after you got on Instagram, you picked up one of your biggest books. Didn't you pick up your Black Cat 50 kind of off?
If you go by value, it's probably the most valuable book I own. Yeah, this one. That's the one I picked up off Instagram.
And that was like weeks after you got on there.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for this book, and the guy contacted me. I drove 4 hours to look at it, and I just met him off Instagram. And I drove 4 hours to meet him, and I looked at this raw, and I spent a good long time looking at it because it was not cheap, and I spent a pretty penny on it. Brought it back, I sent it in to get graded, and it came back even higher than what we thought it was when it was raw, and it's now probably the most valuable book I own.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's Instagram. So Instagram was worth it simply for this book, but I'm perpetually frustrated on there. Because I don't know how to navigate it. I don't catch things in time. It's very fast paced, especially for buying and selling and trading books. I'm always missing out on stuff, and I don't have a good feel for navigating on there. So maybe Bub, you can explain how hashtags and that @ symbol work, and maybe some more of how to navigate this.
I don't want to bore everybody in the chat because a lot of it's just a little mundane type stuff. And the more you fiddle with it like anything else, the more comfortable you'll get with it. The biggest things that I'll say about Instagram is to compare it to things that we all already know about, which would be YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. So the biggest things that you have to learn right away about Instagram versus YouTube is that the comic community in YouTube, I would say, honestly, for seasoned collectors and for, you know, your normal group of YouTube collectors, I think there's probably only about 1,000 of us out there. Now you'll have channels that are in 1,500, 2,000, 6,000. Those are really more like pop culture lovers, new collectors who own like 5 books, you know, you know, people that are asking, you know, what bag do I use? What board do I use? You know, what is a variant, you know, people who are like that, which I'm nothing against those types of, you know, viewers. But usually when you see people who have like 2,000 subscribers, half of those people are those people new to the community or new to the comic collecting hobby, period. Right. And then there's really only about 1,000, I think, real seasoned or active members of the YouTube community who are real collectors or are established collectors, I'll say. So that aside, when you go to Instagram, it's about 4 or 5 times that. So there's like 4,000 to 5,000 serious collectors on Instagram.
Yeah, it's insane.
Sellers, buyers, collectors who would never sell anything, who just want to show books, people who don't have any posts of their own but are always commenting or buying off other people. So there's always that wide range of people who, just like in YouTube, you have those who are kind of watching and you have those who are creating and watching, right? So Instagram is the same way, only it's like 5 times bigger than YouTube or more even. And so it's so huge. That's why you're experiencing those quick things, because when you put something, if you tried to have an auction on like, you know, I don't know, on YouTube, if you ever seen some of those YouTube auctions, you get a few, maybe you get 100 people watching that. If you're a big name auction, maybe you post one thing on Instagram and you're going to probably get 100 likes within an hour. So 100 people already saw it. And you'll probably get a couple of direct message offers. And then you're going to get a couple of people saying claim or I want it for this, or, you know, trying to make deals right in the main chat. So my biggest advice to anyone is just recognize that it's kind of like standing up on a stage when you're on Instagram and shouting out. Whereas YouTube is more like scheduled and more controlled and smaller environment. Instagram is like shouting on a stage that you have something, who wants it?
Yeah.
And then be ready for the rush.
And I would suggest, this is just something I learned, Roger, this will be helpful for you since you just got on there, and maybe anybody else. But
yesterday was my first day.
Okay, so this will probably be helpful to you. Instead of trying to find out who to follow, I mean, basically people post their collections on there. Some people are dealers and some people are collectors and some people is a collection, a mix of both. But you can search for users or you can search for hashtags. And a hashtag is basically, my understanding, is just a label. So you can search for labels. And what I do is I search for labels and I follow the label. And then when somebody posts something that comes up on my feed with that label, I'll go check out their collection. And if it looks like somebody that I want to follow, I'll follow them. But some of the good hashtags to go search and follow are IG comic books, IG comics, and IG comic family. Those 3 tags are used extensively by some of the serious IG collectors. So if you just follow those 3 hashtags, IG comics, IG comic books, and IG comic family, you'll see everybody who posts something with one of those labels. and then you can go check out individually when you see like somebody posts an action 1. You go, oh, I want to see what this guy has, and you can go click it, and you can see his collection, and then you can follow him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you sent me that already. Yeah, I think you sent me that.
But pretty much, I mean, you can almost just randomly guess hashtags that are good. And like, I'm a big LB Cole fan, so I just tried hashtag LB Cole. Comes up, people use it extensively, so I started following that hashtag.
Those, yeah.
And LB Cole cover or Alex Schoenberg or Free Code Horror.
I have one more question, and then that we can get off of this, right? Because this happened today, and I have no idea what this means. What does it mean when somebody tags you on a?
Okay, please let me answer this.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I also have a rant to go along with that, and people tend to like those.
I don't know the etiquette involved. Is what I'm saying. I don't know if I have to respond to a tag or what.
Let me say this publicly, and forever who may be listening on the rewind or anything else, the etiquette is lacking. That's what's lacking. To me, okay, this is what I do. When I tag someone in a post, which just means, okay, there's 2 ways to do it too. The best way to tag someone is tag them in the comments, because then they only see it once. If you tag them in a post, like where you tag them in the picture, every time someone else comments on that picture, you get notified. And I honestly don't care about every single person's comment on something I've been tagged in. I just don't. But if you only tag me in a comment, then I see it once. I can go back to it whenever I want, if I want to follow what else people are saying. And unless someone responds directly to the comment that had my name in it, I don't even see it or care or hear it. So it's great. But every now and then, and I won't shout anybody out in particular, but you know who you are if you're out there. And I still love you. If you're part of the YouTube community, I still love you. But if you're advertising that you're going to post a video today and everyone go see this video, you don't need to tag me in that. And the reason you don't need to tag me in that is because YouTube already tells me you posted a video because I've got the flow run. So I swear at one time, like there was somebody that was tagging me in every video that they were putting up. I think they maybe still do. And, and I was getting an email from YouTube. I was getting a YouTube notification just because, you know, they were posting a video and I was following them. Then I would get an Instagram notification. And then every time someone said, oh, great, I'll check it out, I got notified about that too. It was killing me. It was blowing up my phone.
So is it like if somebody tags you and it said like, hey, this is something you might be interested in? Is that?
Yeah, but here's what I did yesterday. Yeah. I tagged you, Roger, in something. Right. And the way to tag somebody is there was a post where a guy was saying, predict the Super Bowl score correctly, get this LB Cole Golden Age book.
Right.
And so what I did is in the comments, I put the @ symbol and then Metarog 1. So that was a tag, and that should have alerted you. It's like me tapping on your shoulder being like, hey, go check this out. So you put an at Metarog 1, and it would have alerted you under your feed, like DS Comics tagged you on a post. And then you can click the post and go see what it was. And then you could have entered a score and, you know, won that book.
Yeah, I didn't win. I entered a score. I didn't win.
People used to tag me for stuff like, I don't know what, Multiple Comic Monday or Schoenberg Saturday. I don't do that. I feel like I just ignore them. I don't know if that's any more or less rude than what BUB'S rant, but I feel like that's like when you're waiting in line for something at the store and the person behind you starts talking to you like out of the blue. Now you're obligated to have a conversation. Like, I don't have time. I've got other stuff in my mind. Like, you tag me, I'll probably check it out, but I'm not. I generally don't do contest videos or respond to tags on Instagram. That's not how I participate and show my friendship and my interest in things. It comes across rude sometimes because people used to tag me all the time on Instagram and be like, hey, Multiple Comic Monday. And I would just ignore it. It's not rude. I'm just like, it's not what I do. I'm not, you know. Well,
here's my rant on that. So, and I appreciate you.
I didn't want to come up. I didn't want to do, and I didn't want this to be a rant session. I am just.
Well, it's social media,
trying to
and they all have their
information here, right?
That's what I'm trying to give you. It's social media. They all have their pitfalls. These are some of the Instagram pitfalls, right? And it's better to be told about them with a warning sign than just walk blindly and end up in quicksand like we always thought we would.
Oh, and the raffles. Knights of Old is mentioning raffles. I'll
oh, God.
About that, but
I hate raffles.
Me too.
But anyway, I mean, no, I can lose my own money. Just I don't
You
need
don't have to
any
lose
help.
it for me.
I can take $15 and throw it at a picture of a Hulk 181, and I already know I got just as much chance of getting it. So, so anyway, they with the tags, when you're tagging someone to get them to participate in, it's not a contest, but it's kind of like hey, this is what we're doing today. And there's usually in the comic community only so many. Monday is usually multiple Mondays or mutant Mondays. You see a lot, like they want you to show X-Men covers. So it's a kind of way of they're kind of like tag videos. So when YouTube, you have a tag video and hey, everybody who wants to be tagged is tagged, and I tag these 4 people, show me what you got, right? So it's the same as that. You got tagged for multiple Monday, and then you put up a comic that you have multiples of. You show it in a picture. You usually tag back the person that you are responding to, and then you put hashtag or # or number sign or whatever your generation prefers. And then the same word that they used, which is multiple Monday or mutant Monday or whatever. Then you have, Adam Hughes Tuesday, or two for Hughes Day or something like that. You got Thor Thursday. You got Wolverine Wednesday, Webhead Wednesday, Woman of Power
First Appearance
Wednesday.
Friday seems to be a popular one.
Friday is huge. I love First Appearance Friday.
Schomburg Saturday is a good one. I like Schomburg Saturday.
Yep. I've had Signature Saturdays. Usually Show Off Sunday is where you show big books. So it is fun. But if you agree to do like one of them, you're going to get tagged constantly. So I usually
right off the bat, and then
I know you do. That's why I've never tagged you in anything.
I think you did at
first. I asked you to join Instagram, and I never tagged you in anything because I knew that you would hate it. I said Diaz would hate this. I'll never tag him in one, so I never did. But if you respond to one, you'll get more, and if you do respond to none of them, you'll still get one every now and then. And then if you make the mistake, or could be making the mistake, to respond to one, then you end up with like 50 again. So the floodgates.
Also, and I would suggest Roger and anyone else, if you're new to Instagram and you're gonna start following Instagram accounts, the more you follow is like exponentially more posts that are going to pop up. And if you're not able to check them every 15 minutes, you're going to be overwhelmed, where you're going to go back a couple hours later and you're going to have 300 new posts. You're never going to be able to see everything that's posted. So I only follow YouTubers, because I feel like that community is actually better than the Instagram community, because people are putting themselves out there more. They're speaking or showing their face, and it's more involved. It's more personal. I follow YouTubers and I follow Golden Age, and that's it. And, there's some other people that have non-Golden Age stuff that follow me. I don't follow them back. It's not a courtesy to me. If somebody with a modern comic collection or Adam Hughes collection that's not a YouTube community member follows me, it says, hey, so-and-so followed you. Cool, thanks. I don't follow them back because they don't have stuff I'm interested in. Is that rude? Yeah, not really. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I do the same thing. The first time when someone follows me, the first thing, it gives you an alert, right, in your little messages section. I go to that in my little heart section. I go there and I see the person, and you can click on and see what they've posted. And if it's a private account, I don't request. I don't care.
No, I don't. If it's private, then it's private.
Yep.
Then I just ignore
it. And I leave it. But if it's someone who has a public account and they have lots of things posted, I've told you this before. I have a 3 strikes rule. If I look at your account and it's nothing but comics, I'll follow you because I like seeing different and new things. I'm not just stuck in what I like. I like to see things what other people like too. But if I see a picture of a dog, the only thing that I'll make exceptions for is a newborn baby. If you post a newborn baby, and the only reason I'm making an exception for that is because I know your poor wife is at least going to take 9 months off before I see another picture. So that's okay, so you can post a newborn baby once, but like I say, 3 strikes. If I see a dog or you eating a hot dog at a ball game or some kind of meme about how clever you are and what you did at work today, I don't care. I'm going to unfollow you. And that's nothing against you. It's just, there's so many other people that have only comic accounts that I'm not going to waste my time seeing your third cousin's, bar mitzvah.
Well, there's one guy that has a really awesome Golden Age collection. It blows mine out of the water. Like, I wouldn't even get in the door at his Golden Age club, so to speak. But I love his collection. But more than 50% of his posts are him working out in the gym. So I just unfollowed him. I can't do it. But I give a total pass to anybody in the YouTube community. They can post whatever they want. I will check it out. I will like it. I will follow. YouTube community gets a total pass because I feel like they're friends on a more personal level, even the ones I don't talk to on a regular basis. So I follow all of them, total pass. No matter what they post, I'll check it out. But if they're not, and they're posting a lot of just like life pics, I'm not on Instagram for life pics. I'm on Instagram for comics and Golden Age comics. So if it's not that, and you're not in the YouTube community, you're out.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I've been doing. I've been looking. You can tell by the logos and everything. Pretty much who the YouTubers are.
And it's not Reggie. Knights of Old is saying Reggie. No. If Reggie wants to post his workout pics, cool. I will hit like on every single one of them.
There's more gym rats than comic collectors out there. So you see a lot of gym rats posted. You also see a lot of coffee cups. Like people posting their oh, look, they spelled my name wrong again. I'm like, your name is Kamana Leia. That's not good. Like, if they're gonna get it wrong out of respect,
Oh, so you gotta give them a pass for that one.
Yeah, but I gotta stop putting those cups up there. Like every day they spell my name wrong. Really? Hashtag the struggle. I'm like, delete. I'm out of there. So anyway.
Well, listen, guys, I got to get going. The dog has to go out.
Oh wow. So, I've never heard it called that before, but I got to get going too.
Yeah, the dog is outside my door here crying. Saying, take me out.
But if anybody's interested, I'll throw it out there. You guys can follow suit if you want. My Instagram handle is DS Comics PCH for Pre-Code Horror, and it's all one word, just DC Comics PCH.
Ron had another theory about PCH.
Yeah, Roger thought it was Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah, so did ETA Nick.
And I was pretty sure that it was Pretty Crabby Ombre.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with that. It doubles for Pre-Code Horror and Pretty Crabby.
Bob, that was classic. Bob. I have to give you props for that one, though. That was classic, man. I'm Metarog 1. If anybody wants to mess it, whatever, I don't even know what follow me, tag me, touch me. I don't know what that is that you do on there, whatever it is.
Roger on Instagram. He's very sensitive, and he's very agitated when the dog's got to go out.
Well, he's only done like one post. He's already got like 75 followers or something. I don't know. Yeah. See, he doesn't even know. All these people have already followed him.
I only ask this of everybody and I'll leave after this. Please be gentle. It's my second day on Instagram. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know the etiquette. I will find out in time. But give me a little bit of a honeymoon period, and I will be okay.
Well, let me ask you this. You chose Metarog 1.
No, I didn't choose that. Metarog, it wouldn't let me do Metarog. It said I couldn't do it.
Already taken.
No, nobody. There's nobody on there called Metarog. I tried to look them up, and there's nobody there unless they deleted it or something.
Well, it wouldn't let me use DS Comics, so that's
maybe
why
you have to put a number in there. I don't know. Mine is no, because mine's BUB'S Comics. There's no number in that. It's just BUB'S Comics.
Maybe it wasn't long enough. Maybe it needs maybe it needs eight. I don't know. I have no idea. It just wouldn't let me do Metarog. So,
well, guys, last thing I'll say about Instagram is that it's very good for instant messaging. A lot of people have if you have Instagram and you check it often, a lot of people have moved to that as their main messaging platform.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel it's a little Black Mirror-esque, creepy and invasive. I don't like when people know when I'm typing. I feel like there's, you know what I mean? That's a little much. Like when you're chatting with somebody, it says so-and-so is typing. I don't want people to know when I'm typing. And it shows an eyeball when you've looked at it. Sometimes I want to look at something, and I don't want them knowing I saw it yet.
This is too much information for me. Too much information for me.
With the text, you can
try to get the tag down.
You can look at a text and ignore it, and they don't know you've seen it yet. And it's just, you could respond later, but you want to look now. But on Instagram, when you do that, it shows you looked at it.
You remember when we used to give points out on these shows?
Yeah,
and give prizes. I tell you, the prize for shadiness has got to go to DS Comics tonight, who doesn't want to know that he doesn't want you to know that he has seen what you posted until he's damn good and ready for you to know that he's seen what you posted.
I'm old school. I value my privacy. I don't want people knowing when I'm typing, what I've seen it. I mean, the whole point of the texting is you don't have to respond right away. It's not like a phone call. You can check it out, and then when you get a chance, respond later. But on Instagram, it shows when you've seen it, shows when you're typing. So if you're typing and then I start typing something, I'll see the other person stop typing because they saw me typing, so they're waiting for me to type something first. It's too much, man. Go watch Black Mirror.
I gotta get going. The dog is like scraping at the door now.
Roger's gotta go walk the lizard. I gotta pet the giraffe. All right, everybody.
Okay,
have a great night.
Have a great night.
YouTube community has been really fun tonight. And
Roger, be blessed and be back, guys. Remember.
All right,
you too also.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
DS, well, I better say my goodbye first because you'll cut out. Well, I guess I'll let you. DS, are you still there? Or you gone? DS cut out. Roger's still there.
I'm still there. I'm going to take the dog out, but I'm still there.
All right, guys. Good night for YouTube. No Faces Comic Chat. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same channel. And everybody go read a comic. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Karma.